Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Hey y'all, TJ here with ToknowHim Outdoors. Thank you guys for tuning in again for another video. This month is January. We're doing another word of the month. I got my buddy Clint here from church. He's a great guy, real faithful, a guy that I trust and look up to. And so he's going to share some stuff with you today that I think is going to be an encouragement to y'all. But before we do that, before I introduce him, I promised y'all we had a drawing for a free hat. And Clint is my witness. There's a bunch of names in there. And man, I am super just thankful for y'all sharing the stuff and, commenting, and man, it's been a blessing. I think we have like 30 names in here, and so I'm gonna shake it up, and then I'm gonna let Clint pull it out, and we're gonna see who wins the hat of their choice.
All right, let's see. There's
my wife's hair.
I got a hair. That's a bonus.
That's a hair. Sorry, my wife sheds. Okay, AJ Gibson. AJ Gibson gets to choose. I don't know if you can see that. AJ Gibson, you get to choose a hat of your choice. So I will reach out to you, and thank you for all the others that shared. There'll be more and more come. We'll try to do a drawing at least once a month to do a giveaway, just to give back to y'all that watch and share the videos. And man, it's such a blessing. So yeah, back to us. This is Clint. I don't want to steal too much of his thunder. We go to church. I've known you for a couple of years now, and man, it's been a blessing. His family is a huge blessing to our church, and man, he serves faithfully. And I'm going to shut up now and let you take the reins of who you are.
Yeah. So I just give you a little bit of my background. I kind of like to start things like this with a little bit of a testimony, just kind of tell you where I came from and that kind of thing, and maybe you guys can relate to some of that. So I grew up in a small, like going to small little white churches up in the hills in North Georgia. My granddad was a preacher. We went pretty often, and I can remember always being. I always knew the word, at least heard it, from being a kid. And I can even remember walking the aisle one time when I was little. I don't have one of those, I was, 5 years old when I got saved. It's awesome if you do, but that wasn't me. So I did walk the aisle one time when I was pretty young, and I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know what any of that was going on. I knew I wasn't really saved and that kind of thing. And I was very shy as a kid. So, I kind of used that as an excuse to run from the Lord for a really long time. Yeah. So, I grew up not going to church and kind of pushed all that stuff away, and I just kind of kept it out of my mind all the time. It was not like I was actively rebelling, because I think deep down I knew it was true. But I was kind of always just like, I'm just going to keep that out of my mind at all times, and ended up going to school, going to grad school, meeting Ashley, getting married. And when we kind of had our first kid, everything changes a little bit. So that's when we kind of had it at, those conversations of, man, I know that I'm not right with God, and I know that I don't want to bring a kid up like that. So we started having conversations, met up with some of our friends, and started going around to different churches. And at the time, Joe McKeag was at Oakland Heights, and met him, and we became friends. And we used to go out and hang out and just talk about sports and guy stuff, man. Yeah. And so he kind of befriended me, and then one day I ended up finally just coming. I was very convicted and just called him and said, "Hey, man, can you meet me? I need help." And I was in my 30s at this point, and I was like, man, I need help. And I told him, I was like, hey, I got this hole, and I've tried all kinds of stuff to fill it, and nothing ever seems to. And he was the first one to kind of say, hey, it's a God-sized hole. There's only one thing that can fill it. And he opened his Bible, and clearly presented the gospel to me. And then this is the other thing that he did. He's like, well, now what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, it's your choice.
Yeah. So then it was kind of like, man, I tell you what I want to do. I wanted to run again. but I didn't that time, and I got saved in a Starbucks of all places in Clarksville, right?
Starbucks can be used for good.
It can be done, okay?
Yeah.
So, of all places, but anyway, I think that might have been the last time I was in there, to be honest with you. So, that was 20.
He was in there, got convicted, got saved now.
Yeah, I'm gone. And then going through discipleship with Joe, luckily the guy that kind of led me to the Lord was a pastor, that's great.
So Joe discipled you?
Joe discipled me and kind of took me through that process, and then started giving me opportunities. And man, anything they asked me to do, I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do this. I'll do that. And just kind of really grew up in the Word a little bit. And now I'm started out teaching kids, and now I'm teaching adult Sunday school class, which is still crazy. But that's kind of where I came from and where I am. And, long journey. And, so if you can relate to any of that, man, I'd love to talk to you about it sometime. It's, I don't have that saved as a child kind of thing, but I think God uses people in different times to relate to different places, different people, and maybe that hits home with somebody.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's a lot of my testimony. I've shared it before. I didn't grow up in church, and, my walk was pretty wild, my past, and it just goes to show how faithful the Lord is. And that's going to come to our word, that we're going to discuss. The word of the month is faithfulness, and really what that looks like. And, just hearing your testimony, we can already get it sort of start seeing what faithfulness really looks like, and, but, I want to roll into these questions here. And so, talking about faithfulness, what is biblical faithfulness? If you had to give an answer for that, what do you think biblical faithfulness is?
So, kind of the way you find stuff like that out, and this, it's just let the Bible speak for itself. So kind of look them up and see where it leads you. And, God will give you a definition. And I think it's being true. It means coming through on your promises, or being faithful with a covenant, coming through a covenant. And so a lot of times, and the thing that is, man, when you look up faithfulness, it's almost always in relation to God being faithful to man. Like he was faithful to me, even when I wasn't faithful to him, right? Yep. So that same thing, kind of what we were just talking about, it's almost always that direction.
His faithfulness.
Right.
That's good. And do you think so? Do you think there's a wrong way, to be? Is there a wrong way to be faithful?
Yeah.
That's sort of a hard question, to ask.
Yeah, no, I think there is. I think that would just mean putting your faith in the wrong things, right? So, I think us as guys, or just people in general, we tend to play to our strengths a little bit, do the things that we're good at, and then you start thinking, hey, I can handle this, right? You start putting your faith in your intellect, or your abilities, or your health, or your money, or whatever those things are that you think can get things done for you. Truly anything other than the shed blood of Jesus Christ, if you do, is faith in the wrong thing. Yeah. Because all those things are going to let you down, man. Yeah. And he's not. So.
And as men, that's like you hit the nail on the head there. Is a lot of times we're arrogant, right? Right. I know I'm speaking for myself on this. I can fix it, right? As a mechanic background, I want to fix it. And, the Lord brought me on my knees in my testimony when I was, my brother on the side of the road. I'm watching him. Well, he had his problem and he overdosed, and man, I'm sitting there holding him, and that's where the Lord brought me to you can't fix this, right? There's nothing, and but that's that's a good way to put it. The wrong, having your faith in the wrong thing, and so that was good. And in churches today, do you see biblical faithfulness? And I mean it as a sort of like a broad. I know we're very blessed and fortunate to be in the body that we're in. But just taking that out, do you see in mainstream churches, do you see faithfulness, in churches today?
Yeah, I would say as a whole, probably not a whole lot, right? I think obviously I can't speak for everybody. I've been at the same church since I've been saved, and so I think, again, you have to answer some questions, right? So you got to figure out some things. If you're trying to figure out, hey, is this church faithful or that church faithful? You got to figure out a couple things, like what should a church be faithful with? What should a church be faithful to? So I think when you start answering those questions, and we're going to do that, I think when you start answering those questions, that you can look around and see, like, there's nothing that anybody else is going to tell you. I think if you're trying to figure those things out, you got to figure out, hey, first, like, the Bible tells us that the church is the body of Christ, right? And that Christ is the head of the church. Mm-hmm. Well, just like me and you, your body doesn't tell your head what to do. Your head tells your body what to do. Right. So a faithful servant or a faithful church should be doing what Christ would have them do, right? So we just got to figure out, hey, what would Christ have us do? Yeah. And
that goes back to here.
Yeah.
On authority.
Definitely. Yeah. So, and that's perfect, because the thing is like you can look to the Word and say, hey, what would Christ have the church do? Right. And if you look in John chapter 17, that's kind of where our church gets their mission statements, the know, grow, go thing, right? So Jesus actually says, hey, he's praying and he says, finish the work that you've given me, right? And then he goes on to list what that work is. So if you're supposed to be doing the work of the Lord, what was the Lord doing when he's working, right? You know what I mean? I'm simple, man. I'm simple, right? And so he lays it out, and it's kind of three parts. The first part, very simply, he says, I've made God, he's praying, and he says, God, I've made you manifest. I made you manifest. And so he's made his disciples know God. And how did he do that? Through Jesus, right? Jesus made them know God. Yeah. Right? And the church is the same way. So today, what should your church be doing?
Yeah. You should know Jesus.
You should be preaching the Word, right? You got to be preaching the gospel.
Jesus is the Word. Right. And so Jesus is not physically here, right, but we have the Word here. And so
the Word. So that's first, I think that's first step. Are they preaching the Word? Yeah. Are they preaching the gospel? Are they bringing people to God through Jesus? Right. And then number two, he says, after he says he's made them manifest, he says, I've given them the words that you gave me. And then he says, so he's got these disciples, and now they know God, and he's using those words to grow them up. Yeah. Right. He's making these disciples spiritually mature a little bit. He's growing them up. So, and then at the end, he knows his time on earth here is done. He says, I'm going to the cross, so I'm gonna send you. Yeah. And so, is your church? What does that look like for a church? Are they preaching the gospel? One. Yeah. Are they equipping the saints to do the work of ministry? Are they growing them up? Yeah. Right. And then three, are you sending anybody out? Or are you pairing with someone that's being sent out? Or are you pairing with a church planner? Are you planting churches? Are you sending missionaries? Are you helping these missionaries? Mm-hmm. What are we doing? Yeah. And if I think you can look at those steps and say, hey, this is the work of the Lord. Is the church doing that?
Yeah. That's good. A faithful church, you look at, like you said, you're growing these faithful men up, and you're teaching them, not leaving them as babes. Right. And then a lot of times I've seen it in churches, we want to contain everything, right? Mm-hmm. We're fixing to, we're preparing to plant a church at our church across the country, and man, it looks like we're sending out two studs,
great
dudes. Faithful
great
men.
Dudes.
And that's going to, if you look at it, anything that I love sports, you love sports. Yeah. Like Michigan, that's my team. But it's also our head coach, or defense coordinator, or quarterback, our whole team. And it's like that leaves a hole. Yeah. And so even as a church, when you send a guy out, right, there will be a gap to fill. But we know that the Lord is faithful, right? And if we're being a faithful church, then we're going to trust him, and he's going to fill that, God's eyes hole, or whatever that Joe is talking about.
I got some really good Joe-isms. If he's out there, I literally write in my Bible my Joe-ism right here. I start writing them out, man. You hear that guy, that disciple in your head, the disciple maker, you hear him talk. I'm sure you still hear your
Oh, man. Yeah. I was blessed to be, discipled with Chris, and man, he's my father in the faith, on that. And so in the Bible, of all the people, who comes to mind to you, like with biblical faithfulness?
Right. You segued me again, man. You said your father, right? So as a father, the thing that really comes out to me is Abraham and Isaac. I mean, we know the story, but just to lay it out there, Abraham's been given all these promises. He's been given this miracle son that in his old age, and God said, "Hey, I'm going to bless you through this line of Isaac. I'm going to bless you through this line." And he gives him this miracle son, and then he asks for him back. He says, "Hey, I need you to sacrifice him." And Abraham, in an impossible situation, this is one thing we can learn from this. In an impossible situation, especially as a parent, it tugs on your heartstrings, man. But in an impossible situation, to know, hey, God's still in control. Yeah. Right. And Abraham, what does he do? He loads everybody up and he says, "All right, we're going to go." Yeah. But he demonstrates some faithfulness through there too. Not only is he being faithful to what God told him to do, and he's being obedient, but also the people that are coming with him, he says, "You guys wait here. Me and the lad are going to go yonder and worship." He calls it worship. And he says, "And then we're going to come back." Right. So he has faith. He has faith. And he doesn't know how this is going to work out.
He knew they were coming back.
But he said, "We're going to come back." Right. And he's showing his faith there. And God rewards that faith and that obedience. And, it's the most precious thing to him. And he says, "All right, God, I'll give it to you." And God says, "No, that's good. I'll provide my own land." Yeah. And we could go down that road, but
he's talking about Genesis 22. If you've never read that, that is that chapter will be it is drilled into my testimony. That is the chapter I was reading where it really just come together. Right. Seeing, because I'd read the New Testament first, right, and then when I read that, I was like, whoa. Yeah. So it was. I love that chapter. If you've not read that chapter and studied the connections with the Father and the Son, and then the Father and Jesus, man, go do it. It's a blessing. It will.
It'll take you all day. Yeah. And then you won't be close.
Yeah. Oh man, that was good. So one thing I know we all struggle with it. Being faithful, right? We can talk about faithfulness, and there's things that we struggle with being faithful in, whether it's big, small, or whatever. There's something, Right. What do you recommend to someone that goes to church but struggles, with being faithful? Is there anything that you can give them to wrestle with or pray about? Or
for sure, yeah. I think the first thing that is comforting to me. Just know that everybody struggles with that. Oh, yeah. All right. So, or at least I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. But I think we all struggle with being faithful at times. And I think there's a reason, we talked about earlier, there's a reason that almost all references are God being faithful to us, right? And that's the reason, because, man, it's really hard for us, right? Because I think we're dealing with a couple of things. We're dealing with our flesh, and we're dealing with some spiritual maturity. And I think that's kind of the two keys as, you got to wrestle with your flesh daily. The Bible tells us, hey, you got to present your body a living sacrifice, and it says things like, you got to die to yourself daily, and it's a daily wrestling match. Are we going to live for the flesh stuff, or the here and now? Or are we going to live for the there and then? Or are we going to live for the spiritual things, right? And dying to that flesh, and again. A good Joeism, man. The problem with the living sacrifice is it keeps getting up off the table. It's like you just got to keep putting it back there, man. You just got to keep putting it back there. Yeah. And so I think that's a struggle. And I think one way to overcome that too is growing up. Like you said earlier, when you're newly saved, man, you're what they call a babe in Christ. And man, God doesn't intend for you to be that way, not forever. And so, being able to grow up and having somebody there, get rooted in the Word first, get rooted in the Word, and having somebody there that's a little farther on than you that says, come on, this way, I'm following Christ, you come with me, and it's like that accountability, and, at the risk of sounding like the Mandalorian, this is the way, that's the way, that's the way you have to do it, right? Yeah. And that's the way you got to grow up, man, and you just, again, I think one big thing I would say is, stop trying to do it on your own. Yeah. Again, Hebrews 12 tells us that Jesus is the author and the finisher of our faith. So look to the faithful one. Right. You're going to need some help. But if Jesus is the author and the finisher of your faith, look to him. Look to the faithful one.
Yeah.
And have somebody there to help you. You know, there's even, I'm rambling now, but there's even examples of, you know, the Hall of Faith, the great, you know, these great men that, you know, it doesn't have to be a babe. They messed up throughout their life. You know, it's a process. And, you know, I think one thing they did have was a repentant heart and you know, had the willingness to change there. But, you know, it's a step-by-step process. And if you ever want to see it, you know, you can go right there, 2 Peter chapter 1. I think it's verses 5 through 8. Check it out. It'll tell you what does spiritual growth look like.
Right.
That's what spiritual growth looks like. And I think that will help with the faithfulness. You just know we can't do it. Just like everything else, man. We can't.
Well, and also too, you know, I struggle with, you know, when I first gave my life to Christ, and I've had some amazing men in my life, and I'm a babe. And I'm like, I need to be an elder, right? Right. And I'm looking at, well, they're faithful in this. They're reading like 15 chapters a day. And I'm like, man, you know, and the Lord is slowly like, hey, be faithful in the least right now.
Right.
Then you can be faithful and much later grow. And so if you struggle with that, man, start with something simple. Like, you know, I'm in the process of discipling someone right now. And it's like, hey, you know, dude, a couple of verses a day.
Right.
Like, get started somewhere. Don't look, you know, we can do it. I was very fortunate to be discipled by a very faithful guy.
Yeah.
But I can't, that's his walk with Christ. Right. Eventually, I hope I get to that level of maturity. You know, but right now it's like, man, if I can't read 2 books in a day, okay, well, you know, it's different. My walk's a little different. So be faithful in what the Lord is calling you to be faithful on now. And then watch, as you do that, you're going to grow. He's going to give you more to be faithful in. And I think obedience always ties in with faithfulness.
Absolutely.
You know, because you can't be faithful in all this over here if you're not being obedient in what's in front of you. And we do struggle with that. And so, guys, if that's something that you want to reach out to us on, man, please shoot me a message. I'd love to pray for y'all. Pray for anything that you may be struggling with. There's power in prayer and just coming together as men. You know, we need each other. Man, I've enjoyed it. I don't want to take too much time from you or your family. Tell Ashley I appreciate you getting away for a second. But yeah, it's been a blessing, man. Love you guys, and man, did you get to hunt any this year?
Man, I still have some meat in the freezer, and I'm very much the you know, I'm gonna eat everything. You know, if I'm gonna shoot it, I'm gonna eat it. So I tried to really. I didn't, but I'm out. It's on next year.
Yeah, it's on next year.
Maybe turkey. What we got? 2 months of turkey season.
Yeah, turkey season.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Man.
See how it goes. I'm terrible at turkey hunting.
Oh yeah, I sound like a dying chicken.
No turkeys were harmed in the film. I can guarantee it, man. I can guarantee it.
Only turkey here is at the bottom of the store.
That's right.
Shoot, yeah, man. I appreciate you. You know, we'll see y'all next time. Thank you.